Hello, I'm Octavia Mitchell alongside the Low Country's morning meteorologist Josh Marthers, and we interrupt your program right now to bring you the very latest on Hurricane Irma and its impacts for the Low Country. And Josh, just a little while ago, parts of the Low Country under hurricane watch, also tropical storm watch.
And we kind of led you into that this morning, saying, you know, be on the lookout for the possibility of some watches coming out later today. And they don't signal a change, okay? I do want to say that because I know I've already gotten a couple of questions. So it's changed course again. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
No. These watches are issued to support the impact because of the concern that, you know, okay, we don't have the strongly worded watches and warnings, but we're talking about significant impacts. We're trying to make those more clear. Let's show you the storm right now, which has now been downgraded to a Category 3 based off of the latest track from the National Hurricane Center. Max winds are at 125, pressures up to 941. But there is a forecast in strengthening now as this heads up toward the Florida Keys once again and potentially making another landfall somewhere near Fort Myers or up toward Tampa, or it could stay off the coast and carry this all the way into the Florida Big Bend. Still some uncertainty here on exactly where this will go in. Remember, it's paralleling a coast. All it has to do is jump a little bit. Remember this with Matthew? We dealt with this for days, it felt like. Well, we're going to be doing that again late tonight and through the day tomorrow and into Monday morning with Irma as Irma moves north up the west side of the Florida Peninsula and eventually dissipates over the Tennessee Valley as we head into the middle part of next week. So what does that mean for us? Even though we're not in the cone for the center to come overhead, and it will not come overhead here in South Carolina, but the impacts from this storm are very large. The wind field continues to expand. We have a high impact from surge and tidal flooding. This morning's high tide already running higher than forecast, which lets us know that we're on track for our idea for a big-time surge of water into our tidal basin as we head toward Monday. High wind, at least moderate impacts. We want a little bit more confidence on this before we upgrade this to a high impact. The only way that would happen is if we see the wind field actually behaving the way that we think it may, and that could promote the possibility of widespread power outages due to the combination of the tidal flooding and then the inland rain potential that is going to impact everyone. We're talking 4 to 6 inches of flooding rainfall across the Low Country, an enhanced risk of tornadoes, and high impacts from beach erosion as well. Irma is going to be a high impact event. When we flipped over to Scenario 1 and Scenario 2 earlier in the week, Scenario 2 was an extreme impact, and we said even though Scenario 1 looks better for us, and under a traditional storm it would be actually not a really bad scenario for us, under this one it was, and we've been saying it's high impact all along, and the forecast is beginning to come together with that. A hurricane watch has been issued for Edisto Beach and coastal Colleton County points south to the Georgia coast. A tropical storm watch has been issued for the rest of the Low Country. That includes Berkeley County, Charleston County, Dorchester County, and inland Colleton County, including Walterboro, St. George, Moncks Corner, Goose Creek, Hollywood, Seabrook Island, Johns Island, James Island, Charleston, Mount Pleasant, the Isle of Palm, Sullivan's Island, and Awendaw and McClellanville in advance of Irma's winds. We also have a storm surge watch, which has been issued for Charleston County, inland or tidal portions of Berkeley County. That would be the Daniel Island area up toward Goose Creek, and then from Seabrook Island and Hollywood down to Edisto Beach, and then point south toward Savannah. Let's give you an idea of why. This is potential storm surge height at high tide above ground. You can see a large area of the Low Country around our rivers and streams and tidal basin, including Charleston Harbor, and the beaches are going to see a higher than normal chance of greater than 1 foot of water above ground in some of these areas. And once we start getting into this yellow zone showing greater than 3 feet of water could be in place across parts of the Low Country. That's why we're worried about the potential for storm surge as we head toward especially the high tide on Monday. And you can see those colors there on the map. That's what we're keeping an eye on. Tidal flooding continues as well. Our high tide in Charleston Harbor was at 1040. This will continue likely for the next hour to hour and a half with impacts including minor flooding. We expect another round this evening, and it will likely be more significant, Octavia. So that's the breakdown. As far as our message here at News 2, we have not changed a thing. These are the same impacts we were talking about. I think we started outlining these when we went to Scenario 1 as our most likely scenario yesterday morning. and put them on out there as a possibility for Thursday, our impacts are the same. We now are just in that window of time, the 48-hour window, where the watches and warnings will be issued to back those impacts up. That's what's different right now, okay?
So Josh, we might have people who are heading outside today,
right?
And there's like, the weather seems fine. Can you explain to them the difference between the warnings and the watches?
Right. A watch means that conditions are favorable. We'll go back to that watch map if you would like, just to kind of get a better idea. A watch means that conditions are there for possible hurricane force winds and hurricane conditions along the Colleton County coast within 48 hours. A tropical storm watch means that tropical storm conditions and tropical storm force winds will be possible in the tropical storm watch area within the next 48 hours. The storm surge watch means that storm surge could impact these areas within 48 hours. When we go to a warning, that means that the conditions will impact those areas within the next 24 hours. So don't be surprised when we talk tomorrow morning if the watches are upgraded to warnings. I think it may be tough to get the hurricane warning all the way up to Edisto Beach, and it might even be tough to get the tropical storm watch to a tropical storm warning. But here's the logic on that, Octavia. Remember what we were talking about this morning, and since I still have the wind streams here on this map, I can show you. Let's start over and get a wider perspective of the area one more time. See these wind streams here? This is a projected wind flow pattern across the area. What's happening is because of the shape of our coast and a big area of high pressure to the north and the storm to the south and west of us by the time we get to Monday, this air will act like a funnel right along our coast. Picture it like two big buildings. The big high to the north, the big storm to the south. That path between it is like two big buildings when you're in a city and the wind gusts through that and accelerates. Well, the same thing happens, and the shape of our coast helps that process. So the National Weather Service in Charleston, their lead forecasters have coordinated with the National Hurricane Center saying, hey, we think we might have a localized impact from possible hurricane force wind gusts and tropical storm force wind gusts on Monday due to some special features of our coastline. So they outlined these watches, and we're going to see if they're upgraded to warnings based off of later data that comes in as we head into the day tomorrow. But I want to stress again, this does not mean that Irma has changed paths. Irma's center will not be coming to the low country. The impact forecast, Octavia, that we outlined now for the past 24 to 48 hours remains the same. We just now have watches. We're in that time period of 48 hours where the National Hurricane Center is able to issue the watches to verify those potential impacts.